Everyone knew that there were tensions behind palace walls, but I don't think anyone could have predicted just how toxic this was going to become.
He writes the book Spare, then we have the Netflix documentary, and of course the Oprah interview. So, that's Harry in a good mood.
The most consequential thing Prince William did this month was nothing at all. His brother's wife posted a photograph to 5 million followers. 2 small children carrying flowers down a path at Althorp, walking toward the island where Diana has lain since 1997. Britain's papers filled with palace fury within days. Every word of it anonymous. From Kensington Palace, not a syllable. Royal experts now argue that refusal was deliberate, precisely aimed, and the sharpest answer William has given his brother in years.
The irony being, I'm sure there have been more taken in California of Archie and Lilibet, or indeed by their own parents.
Understanding it means understanding what a single sentence from him would have cost. What was he protecting? The post itself. The post was ordinary. That is the part that keeps catching people. In the final week of July 2026, the Duchess of Sussex published a carousel of holiday photographs to an Instagram account with close to 5 million followers. The caption was 2 words long: summer holiday. Most of the images came from Milaites on the Portuguese coast south of Lisbon, where the family had been staying. Archie in the cockpit of a small plane. Lilibet at sunset with a stick in her hand, red hair loose in the wind.
So by William and Catherine moving directly into Windsor Castle, that was a direct message back to Harry and Meghan to say, we are the right people.
One frame did not belong to that set. It showed 3 figures on a grassy path lined with trees and hedges, photographed from behind. Harry in front, Archie beside him, 7 years old, both carrying large bouquets. Lilibet a few paces back in a printed summer dress, 5 years old, a small bag in her right hand. GB News placed the setting at the Althorp estate in Northamptonshire, the Spencer family seat where Diana grew up, and where she has been buried since 1997. The outlet reported that Harry and Archie were carrying flowers toward her grave, which lies on a secluded island within the estate's oval lake. The Duchess has never confirmed where the photograph was taken. That has changed nothing. Hola noted a detail that gave the speculation its spine. Althorp House, open to visitors through the summer season, closed to the public on the 10th and 11th of July, 2026, 2 days when a working estate turned away paying guests. Royal watchers have read that closure as the window. None of this amounts to a scandal by itself.
All these years on, we now know that Harry and William's relationship, at least according to Harry, wasn't what we thought it was.
Harry has brought Meghan to Althorp before. He described it in his 2023 memoir, Spare, writing that in 2022, on the 25th anniversary of his mother's death, he was at long last bringing the girl of his dreams home to meet his mum. The visit is not the story. Every outlet covering this agrees on that point and reaches it fast. The story is what happened to the photograph afterwards. And to understand why one image did what it did, you have to understand why that particular ground is unlike anywhere else in Britain. The island Spencer built. Diana, Princess of Wales, died in Paris on the 31st of August, 1997. She was 36 years old. In the days that followed, her brother made a decision that has governed every argument about her memory since. Not a cathedral, not a family plot. An island in the middle of the oval lake at Althorp, not beside the water, inside it. Spencer set out his reasoning in writing, and the language is unusually blunt for a man describing his sister's grave. The remoteness was intentional. The lake was a buffer. The mud was a second line of defense. He was not describing a garden feature. He was describing a perimeter. IB times UK made the same point covering the current row, noting that the layout is no accident and that Spencer chose the site in 1997 precisely to stop his sister's resting place becoming a shrine for cameras and tourists. Nearly 3 decades on, that perimeter has held. Althorp House opens. The island does not. The grave is not accessible to the public and never has been. In 29 years, no photograph of it has entered general circulation, which is exactly why one photograph of a path caused what it caused. The image shows no grave. It shows hedges, a stretch of grass, the backs of 3 people, and an armful of flowers. Nobody has published a picture of the island, and nobody has suggested one exists.
These were 2 boys who had grown up in a family unlike any other who had a shared experience. And the perception was that they were uniquely bonded by that experience.
But the direction of travel was legible to anyone who knows the estate, and the direction of travel was the entire event. A place engineered in 1997 to be unreachable by any lens had, in July 2026, produced an image on a public feed. IB Times UK reported that the post drew accusations of a vulgar breach of taste, and that one royal commentator described the Prince of Wales as fuming. That word came from a commentator, not from William, not from anyone speaking for him. The distance between those two things turns out to be the whole story. 12, 15, 7, and 5. Harry was 12. He was told at Balmoral in the morning, and 6 days later, he walked behind his mother's coffin through central London with roughly 1 million people standing on the pavements and a global television audience estimated in the billions. William was 15. The procession the brothers joined at St. James's Palace covered about a mile. Neither of them looked up. 29 years have passed. Harry is 41, William is 44, Archie is 7, Lilibet is 5. Neither of them has any memory of a world containing their grandmother, because there has never been one. She has been dead more than 4 times, as long as Archie has been alive. In the photograph, both children are carrying flowers. Archie's bouquet is large enough that he is holding it with both arms. Lilibet is a few steps behind with a bag in one hand, the way 5-year-olds fall behind on a long path. The king, 77, had not seen either child since 2022. That gap closed in mid-July 2026, when Harry, Meghan, and the children traveled to Britain, and the reunion took place at Highgrove. Commentators who had spent 4 years cataloging the estrangement described it as the most hopeful development in years.
The context to it was that William was unhappy about Meghan's alleged treatment of staff within Kensington Palace.
Days later, the carousel appeared. That is the raw material. 2 children, a path, a grandmother 29 years in the ground, and a family that had just started speaking again. Everything that has been argued about since sits on top of those facts rather than replacing them. And what it was argued about was a single word. The word they built everything on: privacy. It is the foundation of the entire Sussex public case. The Netflix series, the Oprah interview, Spare, the podcast, the litigation, the departure itself. The argument has always been that the family stepped back to shield their children from exposure, and that the press could not be trusted with what belonged to them. It is a coherent position, argued forcefully and at length in front of very large audiences, which is why critics reached for the contradiction inside a day. If private moments are sacred, a cemetery is the most private place there is. If the grievance was images of the children circulating without consent, then publishing both children to 5 million accounts is an unusual way to press it. The Sussexes have an answer, and it is not a weak one. Their position has been consistent that the difference is consent. Images taken by paparazzi without permission are one thing. Images they choose to release on their terms, at a moment of their choosing, are something else. On that reading, this is not hypocrisy. It is the entire reason for leaving. Whether that distinction survives contact with a grave on a private island is what the past week has been about. Rob Shooter, writing on his Naughty But Nice platform, reported that the backlash had spread past the Duchess's usual critics, quoting an insider who said it had upset people who normally defend her. That is the sentence doing the work, not outrage from the expected quarters, which has been priced in for years. Defection.
Harry was actually repeating conversations that he had had with William. This isn't right. These are private conversations. We have no right to know what Harry and William said.
Here is what royal experts say William's silence means, stated plainly before the case for it arrives. Kensington Palace has not confirmed the location, has not objected to the post, and has not acknowledged that any visit occurred. Commentators who follow the Wales operation argue this is not restraint and not weakness. It is the only available defense. Any response, however measured, confirms the island as a place worth photographing and installs Diana's grave permanently inside a news cycle. On that reading, William's refusal to speak is not an absence at all. It is the act. What Diana's own family made of it is the strangest turn in this entire story, and it breaks the version circulating online. Subscribe before that lands. The man who wasn't angry. Every viral version of this story contains the same beat. Earl Spencer, keeper of the island, guardian of the perimeter, incandescent at what was done on his land. The reporting says otherwise. IB Times UK put it directly. Not everyone connected to Diana's legacy shares the palace discomfort. The outlet cited a source close to the Spencer family, describing Diana's younger brother as relaxed about the attention, and quoted the claim that he knows every headline brings interest to Althorp, and that renewed interest in his sister's resting place is ultimately good for the family estate. Read that twice. The man who chose the island, the man who wrote about the insane and the ghoulish, the man who, in the online telling, is the wounded party. His own family circle describes him as counting the upside. That does not make him a hypocrite. Althorp is a working estate with staff, a roof, a visitor season, and a payroll, and attention is revenue. Spencer has never pretended otherwise, and he has spent 3 decades doing the harder thing, which is keeping the island closed while the house stays open. Both can be true, but it dismantles the tidy version in which the Spencers and the Windsors stand shoulder to shoulder in shared fury. They are not standing anywhere near each other. One family circle is briefing about sacred ground. The other family circle is briefing about visitor numbers. It also removes the one man with unambiguous standing to object. If the owner of the land is untroubled, the complaint cannot rest on trespass or permission or property. Nobody was where they should not have been. Nothing was accessed that was not offered, which means the objection has to come from somewhere with no legal standing at all. It has to come from Diana's sons. Only one of them was in a position to say anything. He chose not to. The statement that never came. This is the fact the story turns on, and it gets the least attention of anything in the coverage. There is no statement. Kensington Palace has issued nothing. Buckingham Palace has issued nothing. GB News reported contacting both Earl Spencer and representatives for the Sussexes. No official source has confirmed that the photograph shows what everyone assumes it shows. Everything attributed to William this week arrived through intermediaries. Devastated, fiercely protective, fuming, sickened. 4 words and 4 headlines, and not one of them spoken by William or by anyone authorized to speak for him. Trace them back, and most run through the same pipeline.
For years, he has been worried about leaks in the palace, about people writing about his family. He knows that it is bad for the future of the monarchy for everybody to be seen to be bickering and fighting and falling out.
Shooter's platform first, then larger outlets recirculating with the sourcing technically intact and the caveat quietly thinned. By the 4th retelling, an insider close to the situation has become the Prince of Wales himself. That is how a reported mood hardens into a quotation. The pattern critics point to is that William has declined to be drawn on anything involving his brother's public output for years. No rebuttal to spare, no response to the Netflix series, no line on the Oprah interview. The Wales operation appears to treat engagement itself as the concession, on the reasoning that a reply, however justified, converts one story into 2 and doubles its life. IB Times UK has run that framing explicitly, publishing on the theme of William's powerful silence and arguing that the future king's absence from a story can weigh more than his brother's presence in it. Applied here, the logic is uncomfortable and it works. A statement from Kensington Palace, even a gentle one, confirms the location. It validates the coverage. It hands the story another fortnight of oxygen, and it does something worse than any of that. It places Diana's grave inside a press exchange between her 2 sons, which is the one thing the island was designed to make impossible. By saying nothing, William declines to make the island a subject of comment. That is the argument? Before it can stand, it has to survive the objection that none of the outrage is verifiable in the first place. The anniversary. The 31st of August, 2027, marks 30 years. Speculation has circulated for months that Harry may be involved in a documentary tied to that anniversary, and that material from the Althorp visit could appear in it. The status of that claim needs stating precisely. It is unconfirmed. There is no announced project, no broadcaster attached, no figure, no schedule, and no acknowledgement from anyone connected to the Sussexes that it exists.
William was devastated by Spare. He couldn't believe that his brother had revealed such intimate and personal details.
Reporting on the photograph has carried that qualifier, and it remains by some distance the least supported element in this story. What exists is a precedent. The 2022 Netflix series drew heavily on the couple's own photography and phone footage, establishing that private archive can become commercial content when they choose to release it. A visit happened, a photograph exists, an anniversary is coming. A previous series used personal, material. Those four things are true, and they do not add up to a fifth. What none of this proves. The case against the entire story is stronger than the coverage admits. Nobody has established that the photograph was taken at the grave. The Duchess has not said so. No palace has confirmed it. The image shows a path, 3 backs, and some flowers, and the whole controversy rests on an inference drawn from hedges and a 2-day closure notice. Every hostile quotation is anonymous, devastated, shocked, sickened, fuming. Royal source journalism has a long record of manufacturing palace fury that no palace ever felt, and the incentives for producing it have never been higher. The man who owns the ground is untroubled. The visit itself is universally accepted as legitimate. Harry lost his mother at 12 and had never brought his children to see her. But this is the tension, not the retraction. Because if none of the outrage is verifiable, then a palace statement does not settle it. It manufactures it. The moment William confirms anything, the anonymous becomes official and the inference becomes fact. The unverifiability of the whole affair is precisely what makes silence the only move that does not make it real. The message. Royal experts say William sent Harry and Meghan a powerful message. He issued no statement. He briefed no correspondent. He appeared nowhere and took no question he could easily have anticipated. He said nothing, and commentators across half a dozen outlets have spent a week explaining what the nothing meant. The message, as they read it, is not about a photograph. It is about jurisdiction. Every previous conflict between the brothers has been fought in public, on terms set by whoever spoke first and loudest, and William has lost most of those exchanges by declining to enter them. Spare sold more than 1.4 million English-language copies on its first day. The Netflix series was the platform's biggest documentary debut. Silence cost him both times. This time, silence is the win, because the subject is not a book or a series. It is an island his mother has occupied since 1997, chosen by her brother, so that no camera and no commentator could reach her there. Consider what a response would require. Kensington Palace would have to name the location to object to it. It would have to describe what happened on the island in order to say it should not have been described. It would have to argue in public, on the record, about the precise degree of privacy owed to a grave, and it would have to do so against a brother who has proven willing to answer at book length. Within a week, the island would have a controversy attached to it. It would stop being a place and become a position. Every commentator arguing that William should defend his mother publicly is asking him to do the thing that would attach her grave to a headline. William walked behind that coffin at 15. He has spent 29 years watching his mother's memory converted into product by people with better lawyers and larger audiences than he had. He appears to have concluded that the only memory you can successfully defend is the one you refuse to discuss, and that every word spoken in defense of the island is another set of directions to it. That is not weakness. It is the recognition that this particular argument cannot be won by having it. Whether Harry reads it that way is unknown. Whether it changes anything is unknown. The Sussexes have not responded, the post remains up, and the anniversary is 13 months out. The Duchess may post again tomorrow, and the same cycle will run, and the same anonymous adjectives will appear in the same headlines. But the man who has spent 3 decades as the least talkative person in this story has once again said the most by saying none of it. The water. In 1997, a brother stood on the bank of a lake and decided that grief needed a moat. He wrote down why. He named what the water was for, and he named the people it was meant to hold back. And for 29 years, the arrangement worked exactly as designed. The island is still there, the water is still around it. What has changed is that the thing it was built to keep out no longer needs to cross. Does William's silence protect the island or just avoid the fight? Say which one in the comments.